If some part of you believes it's too late, sit with this. He renamed himself 30 times chasing one perfect stroke, and didn't find it until he was 72. By the end of this, you'll understand why he kept throwing his own name away over and over, more than 30 times, like a man burning the boats behind him. And why the masterpiece he'd be remembered for came not at 20, not at 40, but at 72. Here's the tension, and I want you to feel it in your chest. The world already had its favorite, a younger painter, adored, celebrated, finished. And the old man in the freezing room, he was only getting started. Rewind, decades of dawns exactly like this one. An old master painter, frail, white-haired, fingers black with ink, surrounded by paper. Not framed masterpieces, discards. Tens of thousands of sketches nobody ever bought, nobody ever praised, most nobody even saw. He drew birds until his hand ached. He drew waves until the shapes moved behind his closed eyes. To the marketplace, he was a strange old man scribbling for coins. To himself, he was still an apprentice, still somehow not good enough. He said it himself once, and I want you to sit with the weight of it. From the age of 6, I had a mania for drawing. By 70, nothing I made was worth counting. At 73, I began to grasp the true structure of birds, of animals, of fish. At 100, I will have reached something marvelous. Read that again. 73, and he calls it the beginning. Most people that age are counting everything they've lost. He was counting everything he hadn't drawn yet. Now meet the man everyone measured him against. Across the same city worked a younger painter, fine silk robes, an oiled topknot, a confident smirk that never seemed to slip. Patrons lined up, critics fawned. He had arrived, and he knew it in his bones. In the tea houses they toasted his name, his one name, the name he'd keep forever, polished like a gold coin. He glanced at the old man's cramped workshop and saw a has-been who never was. He wasn't cruel about it. He simply never thought of him at all. But the old man wasn't alone in that cold room. Beside him, night after night, sat his daughter, late 20s, dark hair tied back in a bun, plain indigo kimono, hands as ink-stained as his. She ground his pigments. She fixed his lines when his eyes began to fail. She painted through the hours nobody filmed, nobody applauded, the unglamorous grind of an art no one had bought yet. She could have chased her own name and her own fame. Instead, she chose the harder thing. Once, when a lamp guttered low and the rent was late again, she asked why he didn't just paint what sold, the pretty, easy things the crowd wanted. He kept his brush moving in the dark, and I can hear her voice, quiet and tired. "Father, they already love another man's work. Why chase the same wave?" He didn't look up from the paper. "Because I still haven't drawn it right," he said. "Not once. Not in 50 years, and he still called himself unfinished. Here's the fact that stopped me cold when I first learned it. Across his life, he changed his own name more than 30 times. Not a marketing trick, a ritual. Each time he felt he'd finally mastered a style, he would give the name away, hand it to a student, and begin again as a nobody under a new one. A humble apprentice's name, a merchant's name, a wandering monk's name. And finally, the old man mad about painting. Every new name was a door slammed on comfort, a fresh apprentice, beginning again in his 70s. Pause. I mean it, pause and think about the last time you got genuinely good at something. Good enough to coast. Good enough to put your feet up and let the reputation carry you. Now imagine deliberately throwing that away. Walking yourself back to the bottom of the mountain, on purpose. That's what this man did again and again into an age when most people are just fighting not to fall down the stairs. He treated arrived like a trap. Because to him, that's exactly what it was. And it cost him. There were fires that ate his work to ash. A stroke that stole the feeling from his hand, so he taught the hand to move again, one stubborn stroke at a time. Debts. A grandson who gambled the money away. Years where he and his daughter moved from a cheap room to a cheaper one, chased by rent, painting by borrowed light. No gallery, no fame, no promise that any of it would ever land. Just an old man, a loyal daughter, and a wave that still wasn't right. Picture the lowest night of all. 71 years old, his name traded away yet again, his savings gone, his body now a set of failing tools. The younger painter's work hangs in fine homes all across the city, and his masterpiece still doesn't exist. Anyone watching would have called it over. A talented old man who missed his moment by 50 years. If he stops here, that's the whole story, a footnote. He stares at the blank paper. The wave still isn't right. And then he reaches for the brush again. Here's the turn the whole story bends around. At 72, he could have finally rested. Instead, he chose to chase the one image he'd been circling for 50 years. A great wave, towering, alive, a great sacred mountain, tiny and serene inside its curl. And it cost him what little comfort he had left. His eyes, his last savings, his final good years, poured into a run of woodblock prints most artists his age wouldn't dare attempt. He bet everything he had, and everything he didn't, on getting one wave right. The great wave, that's what it became. He carved, printed, and corrected, his daughter at his side grinding the deep Prussian blue that made the water almost roar off the page. Boats vanishing into the trough. Fingers of white foam reaching down like claws. Every discarded sketch, every abandoned name, every dawn in that cold room, all of it compressed into a single impossible curl of water. 50 years of failing had never been waste. It had been practice. At last, the wave was right. And then time did the thing no critic ever could. That wave escaped his little city. It crossed oceans he would never see. Today it hangs in museums on every continent, printed on walls, on phones, on cups, even the tiny blue wave emoji on the device in your hand right now. One of the most reproduced images in all of human history. The celebrated young painter, the crowd's favorite. Ask a stranger his name today, and you'll get silence. Ask them to picture the wave, and every one of them already can. So sit with that scoreboard for a second. The man who arrived at 30 is now a blank. The man who kept starting over at 70 is on the wall of your life. If you're grinding at something nobody claps for yet, building the business, rebuilding the body, learning the craft in a cold room before dawn, this channel is your corner. If you're done pretending good enough is the finish line, subscribe. This is your tribe. We start over here and we are not ashamed of it. Near the very end, dying at 88, he whispered something the people around him never forgot. If heaven had only granted me 5 more years, I could have become a real painter. 88 years old, one of the greatest artists who ever lived, and still, in his own heart, an apprentice reaching for the next stroke. That wasn't despair talking. That was the engine, the exact hunger that carved the wave. He never once believed he had arrived, and that is precisely why he never stopped climbing. So the next time you catch yourself thinking you've finally made it, or worse, that you've missed it, that it's too late, that 30 or 50 or 70 is the end of your run, remember the old man and the wave. Mastery has no finish line. There is only the next name you're brave enough to give yourself and start over under. Your masterpiece may not be behind you at all. It might be the very thing you haven't drawn right yet, the one you're circling right now. If you're grinding through something nobody sees yet, this one was for you. Whatever you're building in the dark, it isn't too late and you are not too old. Tomorrow, the runner left for dead at mile 18 who somehow finished the race alone. 30 names, 72 years, one wave that outlived every man who laughed. So go on, start over, draw your wave. I'm Cole. Subscribe, a new story like this every evening.